disconnect in the world where we know you've got to believe to achieve. And we're going to talk about that some more. But I do a lot of scripture on this show, and I hit one site that was a real religious type of a site. And they said, that's the worst advice in the world. And then I read everything they had to say, because they basically took it to an extreme that said, it ain't about you, it's about God. Everything that you are. The very last line on the show that I did that you listened to was from Proverbs 3:6. Listen for God's voice in everything you do, everywhere you go. He's the one that will keep you on track. Well, here's the disconnect. I think it's splitting hairs or something for people to say that believing in yourself is wrong, because that's where religion gets mixed up in my mind. And here's a psalm that I'm going to give you, and it goes hand in hand with what you said. And I just want to bridge this gap that I just don't like it that people are out there saying, no, you can't listen to a guy like Reginald or Steve that are saying how important it is to believe in yourself. Reginald, one thing we know about working with people, we can't do anything for them. They have to make up their own mind. And until they make up their own mind, we're not going to be able to help them. And here's Psalm 18, verse 32 to 34. It is God who equipped me with strength and made my way blameless. He made my feet like the feet of a deer and set me secure on the heights. He trains my hands for war so that my arms can bend a bow of bronze. All I'm trying to say is anybody that's out there that disagrees with the point that you've got to believe in yourself to achieve, I think is a little mixed up and needs to reconsider what they're saying. Because here's what I think me and Reginald are saying, and Reginald, I'd like you to speak to it. I'm saying this. Of course, we've got to turn to the Lord to get our direction and to know everything that we're supposed to be, to surrender to Him, honor Him. But once we make that commitment and are there for Him, we got to do a lot ourselves. I mean, He gives us gifts, but we have to use those gifts. We can't just sit back on a couch and pray and expect our life to turn around because we pray for God. We have to, that's all about the book of James, faith without works is dead. So let me just turn that whole mouthful over to you for a minute, because I totally agree with what you said. It's up to each one of us to turn to the Lord, get our strength, but then apply it. And that's a Napoleon Hill concept called applied faith. I mean, we've got to put it in action. We've got to use those gifts. What do you think about that?
I totally agree with you on that, Steve. And I'm going to give you some statistics what I learned while I was working in corrections, and where people may not really understand what a lot of the returning citizens coming back into society and being very successful. 98% of those individuals had chosen to turn their life over to Christ. And it's amazing, when that information was shared to me about those individuals, because the thing we have to understand is that when I talk about in order to achieve, you got to believe. And the thing is that a lot of people may struggle with the point about believing what Christ can do for us, And one thing I tell people is that life is like an investment. Is what you put into it is what you're going to get out of it. And if you look at about building that relationship with God, and you look at it from an investment tool, if you look at what you put in, what you give to Him, and what He give you in return because you took the initiative to give yourself to Him, it's just amazing. And I know a lot of times some people struggle with this, but everyone has their own opinion about this, as far as how they look at that. But at one point in life, someone may have an incident that happened, and it will open their eyes and make them kind of see things differently, and then they may make a change then. But the main thing that we must realize when we walking in society right now, one thing I look at when I think about society, I think about how I want to be remembered. And when you look at that from a totality and begin to examine that and assess that, You know, if you want to be remembered as a person that made an impact somewhere, and the thing is that what I've learned, the times that I really did not have a strong relationship with God, you know, things didn't really click like it's supposed to. And you know, it's amazing that you get put in certain situations where he put you in those situations where you can be able to help others. And I think that's what the most important thing and most great thing that happened in my life when I started working with corrections. You know, think about it. You know, if I hadn't worked in correction, we would not know each other. But that's the most beautiful thing that I loved about it, because I began to network with so many different people outside of Department of Corrections and learn, you know, how they really had a heart about really wanting to help people. And to me, you know, sometimes we can get distracted or get sidetracked about things. And to me, it's all in your heart. And like I told you, I'm gonna speak from the heart, because my heart is that, you know, I'm here for a reason to do something that God wants me to do. And one thing I felt like he put me in place to try to help people. And I don't want to be selfish with the help. I want to be unselfish with it. Because whatever knowledge or anything I learned new that I can pass on to someone else to help better them, or if someone has something to help better me, I think that's the most beautiful thing, Steve. And see, that's one thing that I can say that I enjoyed working with you, because that's how you were when you came in and spoke with the population. You know, you came in and you shared what you wanted to do. You had a mission and a vision. And today you have actually have accomplished the things that you started to want to do, to really come in and be an asset to the department, because you had a lot of resources that you can share with the population. And I think the department, I thank them for giving you the opportunity to come in. And see, that's something that I loved about the corrections. When I started in 2004, it was not a lot of resources that was coming through those front doors that was being given to the population. And when I first came to DOC, I think the recidivism rate was probably around about 27, maybe 28%. But once the department began to make a change, and they changed it to the point about evidence-based practice, and began to kind of look at what necessary resources and what programs they needed to come in and kind of implement within corrections. And when they found about the Cotton Community Program, and they did research on this and they did a pilot, and they seen the success of it. And that's why they began to have this program. It's an excellent program. And I think that if any Department of Corrections could incorporate this within their correction and train their people properly to kind of present this program or have this offer to the population, where they can come in and learn about, you know, how to write a resume, you know, going through mock interviews, having individuals as yourself coming in talking about financial planning, you know, about budgeting, you know, bringing in P&P. You know, they brought in a host of resources in there, you know, from the Department of Social Service, you know, child enforcement. And these individuals kind of shared with the population about things that they may have had a concern with, and they educated them how they can deal with it when they walked out. And I think that was so important, because one thing I realized with the population, if people don't understand, a lot of them are very scared and feared to walk outside those gates. Because when they walk outside the gates, it's so much pressure being put upon them, to the point of now, how can I come out here and be responsible? How can I stand on my 2 feet and be able to take care of myself? And I think DOC looked at that and said, hey, look, what can we do? And when you look at you just read the mission earlier in this program. That was the DOC mission. And they changed that because it was different from that. When they changed it. And they're really standing by that mission that they're saying they're going to do, because they're trying to provide them as much opportunity where they can have that smooth transition and also become successful. And one also great thing I loved about DOC is that when those individuals went out, when those returning citizens went out, in society and became successful, Department of Corrections allowed them to come back in and share their testimonies. And I think when you look at rehabilitation, I think in order for people to really capture what you're doing, is that have people that walked in their shoes. And I feel like that's the best evidence-based practice you can ever have. Because you're showing that because these individuals went through this program, they learned about these skill sets that they need to incorporate themselves with to go in society and be successful. And once they went in society and became successful, then they came back and shared with the people about, hey, these things really work. And they shared that, at the beginning they didn't believe in it, but then they became to believe in it. And that's what goes back to what I said, in order to achieve, you got to believe. And once those people begin to believe in that, then when they walk to the society, they begin to achieve those things they want to accomplish in life. They start reaching their goals. And that is the most wonderful thing, because then what made me feel so great about it was that the job that I was doing, I could see the results. And when you see where someone is, that you played a part in someone's life and helping them get to the next level, and then you come back and see and hear about their success, it can't help you but not want to continue, want to provide this and give to someone. And God teaches us about how to just be more about giving. And I think if a lot of us really think about what we do, I went to a graveside service, and the pastor said, life is an opportunity to do good. And, we get this opportunity one time, and we need to make the best of it. And I feel if we really take and begin to learn and educate ourselves more in depth about the word, I love those scriptures that you just shared. They're very powerful and they're on point. And I think that's why, when I look at about from the lip to the hip slogan you have, saying what you're going to do, then when I talk about, in order to achieve, you got to believe in yourself. And I think once you begin to build this relationship with God, those things would not be that kind of challenging for you to be able to accomplish or be able to walk through life and be okay with doing it.
Reginald, you're what I already said. And for the last few minutes there, people got a chance to hear you. They got a chance to hear you speak from the heart. And again, the reason that Virginia is doing so well with taking people that have made a mistake and rehabilitating them and sending them back out is because they're giving them counselors like you that care so much. Not everybody's like you, I know that, but your program, the women that were in there, I remember one time I was in there and you had 55 women in there, and I was told one day by one of the your co people, we're not going to use any specific names right now, but there was someone in there that was just an incredible another person in there that you worked with. And she said to me one day, she said, Steve, you know what's the best thing about your program? That she said, Steve, your program is wonderful. Now, I'm not patting myself on the back. There's a different point here. Please, everybody, bear with me. This is not about making you feel good. She said, Steve, what you're doing to help everyone with their finances and understand about money and how to get rid of their wastefulness and their canteen spending and so forth. She goes, it's wonderful. Your program is absolutely wonderful with what you're doing to help them understand money, because they all definitely need that. It's going to help them in their lives. She said, but what the very best thing about your program is? And I said, well, no, tell me what you're trying to say. And she said that you're a man that comes into this facility and you treat all of these women like equals. You talk to them and you don't talk down to them. And she said, almost no one in here has ever been treated that way in their life by a man. And I'll tell you what, that made me almost cry that I understood how important that is. And the women, they treated me so good in there. I came in there and we just had had a great time. I love teaching there, but